G'day, it's Joel Slate Cairns here, and you've landed on the 3CIR podcast. If you're new, welcome to the crew. If you've been with us a while, you know what we're about: courage, commitment, camaraderie, integrity, and respect. We're founded by Army veterans, built for veterans, emergency services, and anyone who's serious about real growth. We turn hard-earned experience into recognized qualifications, and we don't waste a single skill you've bled to earn. That's the mission.
And I'm Ryan Jury Delaney. Mate, I love when you get on the values soapbox. You can hear the parade ground in your voice. But yeah, that sums us up. We're here to help people make the jump from uniform or frontline into civilian success, usually through RPL and flexible online calls, because let's be honest, most of what you learned wasn't in a lecture theatre.
Exactly. Today's episode, though, heavier topic, and it deserves the respect. We're digging into what a Senate inquiry has been hearing. Unemployment is a major contributor to veteran suicide. It's a confronting sentence to say out loud, but we're not shying away from it. We know the stakes, we've lost mates.
Same. And if you're listening and this is close to home, stick with us. We'll keep it grounded, not clinical. We're going to talk about what's going on, why it's happening, and what you can actually do right now to start shifting it. Purpose, employment, identity after service. This is core stuff. We'll also stitch in where RPL and training can be a circuit breaker.
Let's set the scene quickly. The inquiry heard that a lot of veterans struggle to find meaningful work after service. Not just any job, meaningful. And that word matters, because you can hand someone a mop and a badge and call it a job, but if it erases who they are, it's not a bridge, it's a cliff.
Right? Dr. Caitlin Kerr from AISRAP, the Australian Institute for Suicide Research and Prevention, gave evidence that really stuck with me. She said, the numbers we have don't tell the full story. It's underreported. A lot of records don't properly note if someone is a veteran or currently serving. So when we ask, how many are we losing, we can't answer with confidence. That should stop everyone in their tracks.
It should, because until we can say with certainty who's at risk and who we're missing, we're leaving people behind. The call was for a system that tags every single suicide with whether that person is a veteran, not some of them, not when it's convenient, all of them. So we get a true picture instead of a foggy one.
The bigger national stat puts a fine point on the urgency. Australia's suicide rate is around 12 per 100,000, which is more than double the rate of road deaths. You hear road safety messages constantly: seatbelts, don't drink and drive, speed cameras everywhere. Imagine if we treated suicide prevention with that scale and consistency.
And when the inquiry zoomed in on contributing factors for vets, unemployment and the transition back to civilian life were right at the front of the queue. No surprises there. We both know the day you hang up the kit, the silence hits, the tempo drops from full tilt to, what now? You've been trusted with lives, strategy, million-dollar assets, and suddenly you're pitching for entry roles that don't even ask about your leadership.
Speaking of mismatches, Dr. Kerr described the emotional whiplash really well. You go from an adrenaline-rich profession, representing your country, being brave, decisive, crew-focused, then you're told, here's a cleaning job. Now, there's dignity in any honest work, absolutely, but if you're forced into it, not by choice, but by the collapse of options, it can feel like betrayal. It says, we don't know what to do with your skills. Worse, it can say, we don't value them.
And for a lot of people, leaving the military wasn't even voluntary. Injury, medical discharge, restructuring, suddenly you're outside looking in. That's a different grief altogether. You didn't plan this identity shift, you didn't negotiate it, it happened to you.
That sense of lost agency is dangerous when it collides with unemployment. The inquiry pointed to a study of 229 veterans. 1 in 4 had attempted suicide at least once. Sit with that number, a quarter. And the group most at risk skewed younger and had served in contemporary conflicts, East Timor onward. That aligns with what we hear day to day. The transition pressure is heavier when you've got decades of civilian work ahead of you and you're trying to translate platoon sergeant into a job title a recruiter understands.
Plus, those who are totally and permanently incapacitated on TPI pensions or unemployed were significantly more represented in the suicidal group. It's a picture: health challenges, identity loss, and no role to pour yourself into. It's not one thing. It's the combination that steals oxygen.
And somewhere in that mix, admin pain makes it worse. The inquiry also heard that the Department of Veterans Affairs has had slow claims processes that actively harm veterans. I'm not here to bash people working in the system. Many are trying. But waiting months for an answer about your livelihood, your treatment, your rehab, that delay amplifies stress. It's the not knowing.
The waiting room becomes the battleground. Meanwhile, the savings tick down, family strains, and you apply for anything because begging the system for clarity isn't a plan. But then you land in a job that doesn't connect to your skill or your purpose, and it doesn't hold you. You drift.
So let's pivot to what moves you forward. We can't rewrite policy in a podcast. We can't flick a switch on data reporting, but we can talk about building momentum right now, and that's where 3CIR exists, bridging the gap. Recognition of prior learning is not just acronyms, it's a lever. It says your years don't reset to zero just because you changed uniforms.
If you ran operations, delivered training, maintained safety, led teams, coordinated stakeholders, solved logistics puzzles, those are competencies. RPL maps them to a formal qualification so an employer sees it in their language. Certificate IV in Leadership and Management, Diploma of Work, Health and Safety, Project Management qualifications, Security and Risk certifications. Now you're not a veteran with transferable skills, you're a qualified professional with a track record.
And let's be real, confidence matters. The moment you see your experience formalized, your posture shifts. If you've been ghosted by 20 job ads because the algorithm didn't detect a degree, seeing that RPL converts service into a recognized certificate is a circuit breaker. It changes your story from I used to be to I am.
Here's the practical path. If you're listening and stuck, start with an RPL assessment. You gather what you've already done. Service records, training, job briefs, commendations, even the dull paperwork you thought you'd never use, and we map it. If there are gaps, we close them with targeted units online so you don't spend 6 months relearning what you did under a ruck in the rain.
And while you're at it, sample the landscape. We've got short videos across leadership, HR, WHS, security, business, marketing, government, project management. Not just sales reels, actual pointers on where the jobs are, what the roles ask for, and how your background lines up. It's like sticking your head into 8 different industries in one afternoon.
A lot of people ask, where do veterans land well? Safety and risk is a big one. WHS moves fast, but it rewards discipline, hazard awareness, and corrective action. Security, both physical and cyber, maps from intelligence, protective details, and SOP development. Project management clicks for those who've planned deployments or training cycles. HR and leadership suit those who've grown troops into teams, handled performance under pressure. Government roles are full of process, policy, and service. Sound familiar?
Marketing, funnily enough, draws a certain type too. If you've built morale, told the unit story, coordinated community events, or replaced fear with clarity, that's communication. Wrap some fundamentals around it, and you're in the game. And business, veterans who've run logistics and maintenance at scale do very well in operations.
If you're TPI or managing permanent injury, that doesn't take you off the board. It changes the board. I know a bloke, we'll call him Mick, who thought he was done. Knees gone, sleep shot, the works. He couldn't do physical security anymore. We mapped his experience into a diploma of quality auditing and a WHS qualification, and he now audits safety systems. Half the job is asking the right questions and holding a standard. He went from feeling like a burden to being the guy who prevents bad days.
I've got a story like that too. Someone who was told, here's a cleaning job, she took it, needed the cash, felt like her story had shrunk. We mapped her training and deployments into project management and government qualifications. Within 6 months, she was coordinating contracts, working hybrid, same person, different story. The work finally reflected her. That's the switch.
If you're listening and thinking, yeah, but I've got nothing on paper, remember we know what to look for. Drill down into tasks. Did you train others? That's evidence. Did you run risk assessments? Evidence. Did you write SOPs? Evidence. Did you hold accountability for outcomes with limited resources? That's leadership. You don't need to create a version of yourself. You're not. You need to translate.
Let's circle back to the suicide conversation because it deserves more than a quick pass. The inquiry sample, 29 veterans with 1 in 4 attempting suicide at least once, shows the urgency but also the proximity. If you're a vet with a few mates in the group chat, you can do the maths. And the evidence said the group most at risk were younger, more recent conflicts, worse mental health, higher rates of unemployment or TPI. that cluster should target our response.
And part of that response is creating friction with the ground when someone starts sliding. It's purpose friction, reasons to stay, steps to take, people who pull you into a circle where you're needed. Employment isn't a magic wand, but it's a strong anchor. Meaningful work gives structure and a team. It pays the bills, sure, but it also puts you back in the corridor where you belong.
We also need the system to move faster. If the claims process is slow and confusing, it's not academic, it's harmful. That's what the inquiry heard. So while the policymakers do their work, you need an interim plan for momentum. That's why we bang on about RPL and online learning. You can start this week, not after an approval letter. Start inside your circle of control.
And look, data matters. The experts are right. We need to properly track veteran status in suicide reporting. Every single case. No more blinded by default spreadsheets, because when we see it, we can resource it. The distance between awareness and action is often proof. If you're serious about prevention, you measure what matters.
There's also something Dr. Kerr's comments point to that we all feel but don't always say out loud. Language matters. If we talk about veterans like we're broken or fragile, we invite pity, not partnership. That's not helpful. If instead we talk about capability, about how to deploy it in civilian roles, we move the needle. Confidence without the bravado, purpose without the uniform.
I'll add a practical exercise we give clients. Write 2 columns. Column 1, everything you did in service that you're proud of, big or small. Column 2, the civilian equivalents. Lead platoon becomes managed teams of up to X people with accountability for outcomes. Conducted risk assessments in dynamic environments becomes implemented WHS risk controls under time pressure. Taught recruits becomes delivered training and competency assessments. You get the picture. This is your RPL starter pack and it's your interview script.
And if you're not sure what to aim for, go watch a handful of those videos: leadership, HR, WHS, security, business, marketing, government, project management. Try to spot yourself in them. Just because your last posting didn't have marketing on it doesn't mean you weren't storytelling under stress, which is what good marketing often is. Story as a tool to drive action.
Let's talk identity, because that underpins a lot of transitions. When you've been service first, the question "who am I?" without the badge burns a hole. Here's a reframe that's helped people. The uniform was a container for who you are, not the definition. Courage, commitment, camaraderie, integrity, respect. Those aren't colors you take off. They're your operating system. Employers need that OS. We just swap the hardware.
You with the metaphors. But yeah, that is the heartbeat. The 5 tenets aren't branding, they're practical. Courage to start again. Commitment to build new skills. Camaraderie to find your tribe out here. Integrity to hold the line when nobody's watching. Respect for yourself and your path, even if it doesn't look like your old life. That's how you climb out of the hole.
We've also seen people use RPL to pivot faster into growth sectors: energy, infrastructure, cyber, defense industry, emergency management, logistics, aged care leadership, community services. The economy keeps opening lanes. Your service background often is a better match than you think. And if step 1 is a bridge job, okay, but make it a bridge, not a box. Have a next step planned.
I want to speak to the person who's thinking, I've already tried. I applied everywhere, no bites. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Hear me. You are not your rejection rate. Sometimes it's a translation problem, not a you problem. If your resume reads like a service record and the recruiter doesn't speak the dialect, you won't connect. RPL and tailored language fix that. Then the interview becomes a conversation, not a decoding exercise.
There's another point in the inquiry that slips by but matters. A lot of veterans who struggle didn't want to leave. That means they're grieving. Grief needs time, but it also needs direction. Small wins help. Booking the RPL assessment, joining a veterans business network, watching 2 videos and shortlisting 3 job titles that resonate, reaching out to 1 person in the field on LinkedIn with a genuine question. Stack small wins. Momentum outruns doubt.
And while we're here, nudge your mates. If you've got a buddy floating, send them this episode, invite them to a coffee, ask them what they miss, what they're good at, and what they'd try if they believed they could. Just ask those 3. It opens doors and it says, I see you as capable, not broken. That's the good kind of weight to carry.
I know some listening will say, okay, Slate, okay, jury, it's not that simple. You're right. It's not. This isn't a before and after montage with uplifting music, but the pathway is real and we've seen it work. The reason unemployment shows up in the data is because meaningful work is a banner for a bunch of positives. Routine, team, feedback, achievement, contribution. Take away enough of those and a person is left in the wind. Add them back and the wind becomes lift.
And the system stuff, data, DVA pace, those need to improve. We stand with everyone pushing for better reporting, faster responses, and more clarity. But in parallel, we act. If you're waiting, do not let the wait define you. Use it, build, learn, document your experience. Get it recognized. 4 weeks from now, you can be holding a qualification that changes the first 10 seconds of every conversation with an employer.
Grab a notebook. Write this down if you can. What do I already know how to do that others get paid for? Who's doing it now? Who looks like me 5 years from now? What's the quickest way to get the piece of paper that proves I can do it? Those questions put you in the driver's seat. You're building a plan, not hoping someone hands you one.
And if you need a jumpstart, reach out to the 3CIR team. We live and breathe this stuff because it's personal. You won't have to explain what a posting is or why a qualification should recognize joint operations experience. We get it. And we'll tell you straight if the fastest path is RPL only, RPL, with a couple of units online, or a short course to round it out. Less fluff, more traction.
Quick sidebar, because we get asked often, if you're TPI, can you still upskill? Yes. The format may change, self-paced modules, assistive tech, breaks as needed, but your brain isn't off limits. Plenty of roles are about wisdom, process, and coaching. Your lived experience is an asset when it's paired with the right frameworks.
Something else the inquiry touched on, indirectly, the shame spiral. People feel guilty for not landing a job overnight. They say, I used to be capable. Why is this hard? That shame breeds silence, and silence is the enemy. So standardizing the language for skills through RPL and qualifications removes the shame. It's not about deserving, it's about demonstrating. You're not asking for charity, you're showing value.
And if the system speeds up, claims processed on time, status tracked accurately, veterans identified in suicide stats every time, we'll be in a better place. But we won't wait for that to start the work. The tools exist now. The community exists now. The roles are open now. It's not easy, but it's doable.
Before we shift gears, if this conversation is heavy for you right now, take a breath. Reach out to someone you trust. Call a mate, loop in a family member, book a chat with a peer support group. You don't have to white knuckle today. And if you're on the other side of this and thriving, scan your people. Someone needs you to check in.
All right, let's land this with a handful of tangible pathways. Number 1, audit your skills. Military and emergency services are competency factories. You've got risk, leadership, training, logistics, planning, comms. Write them down. Number 2, get an RPL pre-assessment. Turn the list into recognized units. Number 3, pick 2 industries to explore in detail. Use our videos as a tour. Number 4, line up a bridge roll if needed, but make it a bridge with a timeline. Number 5, build a small accountability circle. 2 or 3 people who won't let you drift.
And while you're doing that, polish the story you'll tell. In interviews, don't explain the whole military, just translate. Instead of saying, I was a section commander in X unit, say, I led teams of 9 to 12 in high-pressure environments, managed resources, trained new staff, and delivered results against strict parameters. You see the switch? Now the hiring manager sees themselves in your story.
You might also be wondering, what about government roles? They're a solid fit for a lot of veterans. Policy analysis, program management, compliance, emergency planning, procurement. Many require you to show you can navigate frameworks and communicate clearly. A sweet spot for people who did orders, doctrine, and briefings. Combine RPL with targeted short courses and you stand out.
And for the private sector listeners, if you're an employer tuning in, hire veterans, not as charity, but as strategy. You get people with built-in discipline, learned humility, and an unhealthy obsession with being on time. You want teams that can take a hit and keep the standard? They're out there. Speak the language and you'll find them.
One more angle. If you're midway through transition and you feel like the only thing on offer doesn't match your dignity, push back. Ask for mapping. Ask for RPL. Ask for a pathway, not just a patch. Your courage doesn't disappear at discharge. Use it to negotiate for yourself.
And remember, the 5 tenets aren't just a nice plaque on a wall. Courage to say, I'm not okay yet. Commitment to take one step anyway. camaraderie to carry and be carried, integrity to keep promises to yourself, respect to honor your history without being trapped by it. Put that on repeat.
We started with the hard truth. Unemployment is a major contributor to veteran suicide. The inquiry's evidence makes that clear. It also showed how imperfect our data is today and how slow systems can hurt. But here's the other truth. Aligning your skills with meaningful work can be a life-giving act. RPL, qualifications, targeted training, and community support are not buzzwords, they're tools.
Tools you can use this week. And if you want help choosing where to swing the hammer, we're here. Check out the 3CIR resources, scan the videos across leadership, HR, WHS, security, business, marketing, government, project management. Ask yourself which ones feel like a fit for the way you've always operated, then take the first small step.
Next episode, we're flipping the script from getting a job to choosing the right one. We've got a cracking topic, 17 questions you should always ask yourself before accepting a new role. This is the cheat sheet we wish we had the first time we said yes too fast and paid for it later.
Oh, that one's going to be spicy. We're talking questions like, do I want this title or this lifestyle? Will this boss help me grow? And what does this job turn me into after 2 years? We'll get into culture, scope, learning curve, and the quiet red flags you only spot if you know where to look.
Bring a pen for that one. In the meantime, take care of yourself, reach out if you need a hand, and don't let the weight stop the work. You've got more to bring than you think.
And more people in your corner than you realize. Catch you next time, crew.